Hi, this is Christy from birdmentor.com, where I teach advanced skills to beginning birders, and thanks for joining me today. So this is a time of year where a lot of people start to plan their summer vacations. Now, I'm sure a bunch of you are the kind of people who like to go to specific destinations with specific birds in mind that you'd like to see, while others, you just go along with your family or friends to wherever they're going with the hopes that maybe you'll get a day or two where you can go and check out the birds. Now, aside from putting a field guide in your bag for that particular region you're going to and maybe scheduling a tour with a local field guide, what else can you do to prepare yourself? I've got 3 tips that can help you get the most out of your vacation and also can get you to see the birds that you really want to see. Now, the first one, it actually happened to me just a couple weeks ago. I was getting ready to teach at this big gathering in southern Arizona, and it's a habitat that I've never been to and I don't have any experience in. So the very first thing I did was I looked online and also at other organizations like the Audubon or nature clubs, anyone that's already created a list of the birds that I would see in that area. And unfortunately, I was going to be in a pretty obscure location, so there really wasn't much available. Now that's where the second tip really comes in handy. Because I didn't have any other resources available to me, there was nothing in that particular region, I had to make my own. And I actually love this one, and I recommend it to anyone regardless of whether or not you're going on a trip or if you're just staying at home. And that's to create a master list. So what you do, you grab your trusty field guide, and you start literally from the very beginning. This is actually what I did when I was getting ready for my trip. I started right from the beginning and started perusing the birds page by page. And I was looking for the birds that were going to be in that particular region. And I did this by looking at the field or the range maps. So I looked at the range maps to see, is the bird I'm looking at in that region. Then you look at the description that they have here and find out if it's going to be in your specific habitat. So we were going to be in actually in some agricultural areas. And so even though there were certain birds that were showing up that were going to be in southern Arizona, when I looked at the range map or at the description, what it said was this one, shows up at people's feeders and in their backyards. And so that was not actually going to be applicable to where we were. So you don't have to add that bird to your list. And the last thing you want to do when you're creating your master list is to ask yourself what season you're going to be traveling in. So for me, it was going to be late winter, early spring. Actually not early spring, just late winter. And so what I did is I went through the book and I just looked to see if any of those birds that I was identifying that were actually going to be in southern Arizona were there in the winter time. And this really does help to decrease the number of birds that you could possibly see, which is helpful when you're creating your list. And the piece I love the most about creating a master list is that it really begins to build a level of intimacy between you and the birds in that region. Because for me, what I find is as I start reading through the descriptions, I start to get to know those birds better than I would have if I just showed up and saw it and said, oh, that's great, cool bird, it's beautiful, whatever. You get to learn more about them and even develop a level of curiosity. There were certain species that I came across and I thought, gosh, I've never seen this before. This would be amazing to see. And so I wanted to learn more about it. And so I did more research about those particular birds. And then the other thing I love is that, so for instance, we were down there and every morning we were hearing this one bird calling on the property that bordered our property. So we couldn't actually go over there to see it, but we could hear it every morning. And it had this super loud, vociferous, gorgeous, diverse call. And it was relatively consistent, just going on and on and on and on. And so instead of having to look through the entire field guide or going through an app where you might have to just keep searching and searching and searching, I only had about 117 choices to look through because that's all the birds that were there. And, because of the ability of narrowing your choices down, so there's some birds that are only out at night and other birds that are calling in the morning. And that can help you narrow your options down. And so right away, we knew that we only had about 4 birds to choose from. And pretty quickly, we narrowed it down to the family of thrasher. So there was a gorgeous thrasher that was singing to us every morning. And so the very last thing you want to do is to look for a local expert in the area, whether it's someone that maybe has their own website or is a tour guide, or even someone that's a local farmer, for instance. Now, at the gathering that I was at, we had two gentlemen who were from that area, and they actually knew the birds really well. They had grown up in the area. And it was wonderful because there's two reasons for me. One was because one of the birds I really wanted to see was a crested caracara, and so one of the gentlemen actually knew exactly where we could go see it. He's like, oh yeah, just a quarter mile down the road over here, they're always there. And so instead of waiting for, you know, weeks potentially to go and actually find one of these birds, I was able to pretty quickly locate them. And then the other reason is that I guess for the same kind of element of time, like if I had a month to be there on my own, then I probably wouldn't necessarily go look for people to tell me where the birds were, because it's just kind of more fun to find them on my own. But we only had 5 days, so it was awesome because this one morning I saw a little bird flitting around the branches, and it reminded me of like a warbler or maybe a bush tit. And I was able to describe the bird to him, and right away he said, oh yeah, that's our verdin. And I said, yeah, of course it's the verdin. I remember seeing that in the field guide when I was looking through it. So I'd love to hear more from you guys and what you do to prepare yourself for a trip before you go on it. You can share your experiences in the comment section below. And thank you so much for joining me this time. Please get out there and help spread some bird love in the world.